The reason why it's a great day today and every day, any day above ground is a blessing. Let me tell you. Every day, especially as formerly incarcerated and incarcerated individuals, we wake up in the morning and put our feet on the side of that bunk. We get a chance and a choice to get life right. And today I want to say that I'm honored to be here with so many lived experience, credible messengers in this room. This might be one of the largest gatherings of successful individuals who have touched the criminal justice system. Kimber Smith, come on, give it up, Kimber Smith. Deanna Hawkins. Uncle Ron. Stand up, Uncle Ron. I think you might be the only one everybody here knows. Yes, sir. Appreciate you. But I also want to honor the folks back here at this table who is still incarcerated. Gentlemen, please stand. This is why we're here today. We're here for one purpose: to share information, to network, so we can build our organizations and our mission stronger to do this work. My story is no different from any other man or woman or young person in this country who've been incarcerated. I'm not a lucky guy. I've done television. I've written New York Times best-selling memoirs. I've been on Oprah quite a few times. I've been blessed with amazing opportunities to travel the world and make a living speaking. But not just about my own lived experiences, but speaking for and advocating with the voice for people like us. My mission today at 60, thank God I made it to 60. Is I'm speaking for the little homeboys and little homegirls today, clear across this country, who I believe and what I know is the true collateral damage of guys like who I used to be. In prison, over 29 years ago, this year in October, it'll be 29 years that I'm home from prison. I went to prison in the era of the 1980s version of the 1970 version Ms. Deanna Hawkins was talking about, the so-called war on drugs. In the early 1980s, coming out of high school, born and raised in LA and San Diego, somebody came up with an idea, which was part of a plan to either build up the $180 billion mass prison industrial complex, which destroyed African American families, which separated fathers from their children, which created a generation of young people who we call children of incarcerated parents. Slide up, please. From the streets to the stove is a theme of my talk. And I want to say that throughout my talk, I'm going to try to educate folks in this room, especially the leadership of these tables. Returning citizens has the most powerful voice that people on the inside listen to. When I came home from prison, I was a changed man. I figured out who I was in prison. I fell in love with myself in prison. I educated myself in prison. But it wasn't until I walked out of prison October 2nd, 1996, that I witnessed the impact. Next slide, please. The impact of poverty, the impact of the crack cocaine era of the 1980s. And as a little boy growing up, my mother said something to me that was detrimental, that many black mothers say to their black sons who are being raised in a single-parent home. I speak based on my own lived experience as a black man. I haven't had any other lived experience other than growing up in inner city America during a time when many of the families in my community was broken. Poverty creates a certain mindset. And so when you look at what we're dealing with today, and what my mother said to me, and many of our mothers said to their sons, you're the man of the house. My mother told me I was the man of the house, with no man training. My mother and father split when I was young. My father struggled, like many young black boys in this country, raising his child in the era of the late 1960s and the 70s. So a lot of us became criminalized. Next slide. At a very young age. The 1980 underground economy. That's me. That's me in my heyday, the 1980s, a part of my life that I'm not proud of. My dream as a little boy was to be the #1 drug dealer in Southeast San Diego. I studied the most successful drug dealers, the millionaire drug dealers. How do they walk? How do they dress? What do they drive? How they communicate? I've never been violent, never carried guns, but I was smart. Even though they told me I would fail and wind up in prison one day, like I did. Grew up with adverse childhood experiences. Saw a lot of things that no young child should ever see, hear, or experience. As a little boy, I used to be the guy that rushed to get on the school bus every day. I wore these Clark Kent glasses with the right lens was thick as the bottom of a Coke bottle. I was born partially blind in my right eye. They made fun of me. They called me Four Eyes. But it was something magical about this one eye that they called bad. I rushed to get on the school bus because I wanted the seat behind the school bus driver, because it had the biggest window. And the reason why, because during the 1970s of immigration in California, they busted little homeboys to the burbs to go to school. And for the first time in my life, driving on that school bus, I saw the American dream. I saw multi-million-dollar homes. I saw affluent families. I saw what it looked like for young kids to live in a home with mothers and fathers. And I knew inside of these homes, these kids had cookie jars. I knew there were a microwave. I knew there was a double-door refrigerator. And I knew at dinner time, these mothers and fathers sat with their children and engaged them intellectually and talked to them about their dreams and asked them, what do they want to become? But for many of us, our mamas wasn't there. Many of us was exposed to detrimental experiences. During the 1980s, a generation of young people were born that was addicted to crack, that were drug dealer babies, military babies, where a lot of our young females became highly promiscuous in the 1980s because they wanted to be with the drug dealers. Because we had the cars, we had the money, we had the flash. In the 1980s, 81, 82, rock cocaine. Before it was called crack, it was called rock. This ain't real rock. I know the feds in here. destroy the black community. No matter who you are, how privileged you was raised, no matter what school you went to, what class you was in. Crack cocaine created 3 multi-billion-dollar industries. And I'm speaking on being there. 19 years old, millionaire. Go back, please. 19-year-old millionaire. Own limousine. Had a crew. Bigger than that. We traveled. We bought real estate. We invested. But during that period, how did that cocaine, cheaper version of cocaine, get in the hood? We weren't chemists. We didn't have passports. We'd never been across the border before. Somebody who created that formula went to Oakland, taught some of the homies up there how to cook. They came down to California, that was Los Angeles, taught the LA boys how to cook. They started selling the recipe for $60,000. I got the recipe, but I didn't pay for it. It was a freak accident. I was going to my boy's house to pick up about 20 birds. You guys know what birds are? Y'all know what birds are? Chickens? Kilos. A part of my life I'm not proud of. I was a co-conspirator and co-architect to modern day mass incarceration. Crack cocaine became the meal ticket of the black underground economy. Everybody turned the other cheek. Our mothers turned the other cheek. Our fathers, people in the community, the pastors, folks who ran nonprofit organizations in the community turned the other cheek. It showed up, everybody got rich. We impacted a community of people that started smoking crack. And when you smoke crack, during that era, the government or no one knew the long-term effect that crack cocaine was going to have in the black community across this country. In the mid-1980s, one of the industries that was born was gangster rap. Is when they stopped giving R&B deals to artists because they were funding all of the gangster negative rap of drive-by shootings, B's and H's, murders. And as we know, when it's time to run for office, politicians, so-called, get tough on drugs. The weapons came. I knew the Colombians who used to come to California, who stopped coming at one period and began to sell to the Mexicans because the Colombians were getting busted because they weren't experts at crossing borders. So they sold to the Mexicans are experts at going across the border. I get a dry mouth quite often. Medication that I'm on. But this period influenced so many families and communities. And from that era on, the federal government started doing massive federal indictments all across this country. They changed the law. 56 grams of crack meant a mandatory 10 years of life. But if you have powder cocaine, which we knew was the rich man drug of the 1970s, nobody was snorting in the hood. So they took the base of what created crack, where you get less time and the most time for having a base of the cocaine, the cheaper version. And so as a drug dealer, we wasn't aware or conscious about the long-term impact that our lifestyle and culture would create. So you had that hip-hop gangster rap industry born out of that, multi-billion dollars. Then the fashion industry was born during the 1980s. We popularized Dooney and Burke, Gucci, and Louis Vuitton. We popularized what we know today as petty manicures at a spot called Man Trap in Inglewood. In the early 1980s, Man Trap, think about that name, Man Trap. For all the ladies when it got done up, got their hair done, feet done, and the men would come there and get trapped. Real talk. Another part of that industry that was growing out there, the diamond industry, the gold industry. There used to be a guy by the name of Gigi, downtown, Armenian guy, LA, where the drug dealers would come all over the country and buy the Turkish rope chains, Dookie rope chains, big medallions, Mercedes-Benzes, as you can see there. We bought real estate, vehicles, all of that. For the first time in the black community, young men really started to feel worthy and somebody from that lifestyle and culture. And then when indictments came, I was indicted in 1988 and sent to federal prison. And when I walked into federal prison to serve out a 10-year sentence, I was lost. I had no knowledge of what I'm talking about right now. Next slide. The collateral damage and the long-term impact of that criminal culture is what we're dealing with today, especially from the black and brown community. Collateral damage is the children of incarcerated parents. Collateral damage is our loved ones, our families, our mothers, our fathers, our siblings, our loved ones who had to do that time with us. Massive industries was born. And the prison industry is huge. And I'm in prisons all across this country, $180 billion industry. Crime has been here forever. It ain't never going nowhere. But what gave birth to the criminal of so many young black men? What drives our anger and our violence? Because when you're a young black boy and your mama tell you you the man of the house, when your mama got 2 or 3 sugar daddies, and you come home from school, and your mama's sitting on that couch with that old man who preyed on the young, single, black women, Hispanic women in the community. These men were married, they lived in the burbs, and after the sugar daddy left, mama had a little bit of money. And they asked us, why do we street hustle? When a little boy sees his mother in multiple relationships, that drives something in us. That gives birth to the criminal and that hustler mentality. Because most of us started hustling out of one desire, to help our mama. As a young boy growing up, many of the young men in our community never knew who their daddy was. Imagine that. Growing up in grade school, not knowing who your father is, you gotta tell a lie that your uncle is your daddy. Or you fall in love with the sugar daddy, he comes around every now and then, play a little ball with you, take the family out to eat. Imagine calling a man daddy most of your life and you find out later on that he's really not your father. And then when the young girl sees the mother highly promiscuous in multiple relationships, inadvertently teaching the daughter how to hustle and get money using her sexuality. Imagine that. Imagine never being wanted. Imagine that you look so much like your daddy that your mother inadvertently hates you. And when she whips you, she's whipping that man. And it's not sometimes that mother's fault, because the mother has generational lived experiences and trauma that she inherited from her mama and her grandmother. And I'm going there today with this because I have to teach you to understand how we got to this place we're in today. None of us was born criminals, violent, or any of those things. It was driven through poverty. It was driven through lack of accessibility. It was driven through our desire to survive. So that black underground economy at some times was the only business that was offering employment to people in the neighborhood. So as I walked in this prison, I didn't know what to expect. I was young, 23. Never been to prison, naive, wasn't a gangster, wasn't violent, but I knew there was something special and different about me. I just saw the world different from my mom and my dad. I saw the world different from a lot of people in my community. Just from being bused to the suburbs to go to school, I knew it was another world out there. And this is why exposure is important in developing the whole person in that reentry space. Is you gotta go back to the cause of the decision-making you made that led you to prison. That has to be addressed. That trauma has to be addressed. And I've never addressed my trauma. And the woman up here today that runs the youth prison system here talked about people getting in front of children and adults who might be sick a little bit, trying to teach and uplift someone else who's sick. Because of the stigma of going to a therapist in our community and showing vulnerability, it's tough for a black man. And I only can speak for a black man because that's who I am. And so that damage, we influenced that whole generation. Next slide. So when you see the little homeboys, the little homegirls who I work with, I cherry pick all of my students in my program. Not like some organizations cherry pick kids who are going to be successful without help or not, so they get those high numbers and keep them grants going. I cherry pick the ones other organizations don't want to deal with. The young girl in the middle is pregnant, that's her brother on the left. They're all parents in prison who work with me. Angry, look at this, look at their faces. They don't even smile. For what? They don't believe. They lack potential, though they have it. Next slide. The behavior schools, the public school system has failed young people of color. Because when you've never seen education work, when you've never seen marriage work, and when you don't see marriage work, is why a lot of men don't hold up to the responsibility of their children. Because our granddaddies didn't, our daddies didn't. They had multiple families, multiple children with different women. We inherit that mindset. And so you think about these kids who go to school every day, who the teacher says, do math, do history, do English, do all these different things. And what happens? They can't comprehend. They're not interested because they don't believe in it. And what happens in a lot of schools is that they fail to connect the dots. The educators are emotionally and culturally disconnected. The school teachers are not connecting money to education. These kids are in survival mode. They need money. Basic education is not working for a lot of young folks in this generation. This is why strength-based education is important. Where we look at the strengths of these children, their gift. What do they do well? Forget everything that these kids are failing at. And focus on what they're good at. Marcus Buckingham, if you get a chance, Look up this dude. He worked for Gallup Poll for 20 years studying the world's most effective leaders and managers. And he talked about the study he did with his children. His kids came home with grades all over the place. He didn't focus on where the kids were failing at. He focused on where they were excelling at. So as a young boy, and a lot of us, we got whipped, punished for everything that we failed at, but no one paid attention to what we were good at. I got one A in my life in drafting. It was something about that 45-degree angle table, the T-square, that little silver device with that 1/2 pencil. The only A I ever got in my life, and nobody paid attention to that. I was a #1 candy selling newspaper boy growing up. I was a hustler. I had to hustle. My mother and sister depended on me to hustle. These children, look at them. Look at them. 14, 15, 16, 17. They should be here today. Not the old heads. Because we talk about ending the school to prison, neighborhood to prison, cradle to prison pipeline. Re-entry will never end. The prison system will continue to grow if we don't address the criminal culture in our young people. And the reason why a lot of folks don't deal with this population until they get in the system, because they're the most difficult humans to transform. But they're full of potential. I only go to alternative schools. These girls are having oral sex in bathrooms at school, 14, 15, 16 years old. They calling the teachers and their mamas bitches. They have no respect for humanity. They bringing guns to school. They smoking everything they can put into a vape pen. We have a real problem. And everyone in this room that's 50 years old and older. I'm talking about us grown folk up in here. Especially the ones that look like these babies. Have a generational obligation to reach back. Because those before us made it possible for us to sit at these tables. Right? To become heads of prison, CEOs of corporations. And I don't want to air our community's dirty laundry in the room, but we have been so divided in classes, the have and the have-nots. And we forgot that we was once put in a box. And so we get ours, and we forget. And we say we love our community, we love our culture, but the black middle class, there's a threat to that. Because that's the future. Will they be middle class? Or won't they become middle class? We can't do it by ourselves. Next slide. We use food as a therapeutic tool at the Chef Jet Project in Vegas. All these youngsters, man, this is hard. They come into the system. Guaranteed. If we don't plant the seed for long-term growth and development. And this is where you successful men and women must come. You women who are part of the Divine Nine. You men who are part of the Divine Nine. We can't just focus on developing our children through Jack and Jill, through junior Divine Nine programs. Because we need you women to come in to these behavior schools and teach these young girls how to sit in the chair with their legs closed. And teach them to value themselves, that they don't have to lay on their back to feel validated as women. We're not doing that. Us men, we not reaching back. I got a school in Las 501c3. I put $400,000 of my own money in my school. I don't wait for the government, no handouts. I don't sit on no tables. I don't get called to none of the tables because I know that my approach, someone said earlier, there's no money in solutions. The money's in the failure. And so I know that the Department of Corrections follows and tracks the grading and the kids being in these schools to help forecast the building of prisons. We have to put humanity first before career. This is big business. This is huge business. 1.3 billion a year is just spent on feeding folk in prison, juvenile, state, and federal prisons. All the programming's in adult prisons. They don't have shit in these juvenile prisons. Welding, HVAC, dental work. Imagine we taught the little homies how to make dental and eyewear, gave them a trade so we can get on the front end and get them so they don't wind up in the prison system. Right? Don't be scared of them. Only be if you run up on 5 or 6 of them on the street, it might be a different story. They cry. They dream. They want what we have. Why shouldn't they? Why shouldn't they have a house on the hill with a white picket fence? Why shouldn't they have a swimming pool in the backyard? Why shouldn't they be able to go out to a white tablecloth dining experience? Why shouldn't they be able to jump on an airplane with their family and go on a family vacation? I live in Las Vegas. Most of my kids, they never seen the ocean. 3-hour-and-a-half drive to get to the Pacific Ocean, never been. Most of these kids have never been in an airplane before. Exposes the foundation of transformation. Next slide. Men, women, we can't just father our own. That's what the minister said. Minister said we can't just be a father to our own sons. If you only father your sons and you ain't fathering other kids, you're part of the problem and not the solution. Ladies, when you go to the hair salon, what would it take if 2 or 3 sisters got together and put in to take one of the little homegirls to get her hair done so she feels pretty? What would it take to buy one of these tables at all these conferences we go to and spend so much money and put a little homeboy in between each one of these professional, successful men? Right? And then they can see, look at my man's suit. Look at my man's shoes and socks. They see us wearing tight pants now. Successful men wear tight pants. Took a long time for me to start wearing tight pants. We get our hands manicured. We walk a little different. We socialize a little different. It's about exposure. This young boy right here, Devin, he's 17 years old. Got tiny ears. Mama's smoking crack, methamphetamine for 9 months while this baby was in her belly. Then the daddy impregnated his mama's sister. So now he got a brother cousin. But he's violent at school. Daddy shot his dog when he was 8 with a shotgun and killed him because he was barking too much. His grandmother's a white woman. Father black, mother biracial, white older woman, who I love today, Sergeant Peggy, used to be in the Air Force, raising up the boy, but she lacks cultural connection to the boy. She can't raise a boy into a man. We got to teach the boy how to pull his Johnson out and take a pee for the first time. We got to raise him up under man traits. This is why we are per capita more of us in prison than any other race of people in this country. Like, we have to stop that pipeline. And folks who's in this business, people commit crimes every day. Job security gonna be there. But we these have to try on the front end versus the back end. I brought him in a red shirt. I got his little, calls himself a little pyro. Pants pulled all the way down there. He never smiled, he never talked. I don't even know most of my kids' names, the boys. I call them all son. And they respond. When I was in prison, Mr. Womack, older black man, put his hands on my shoulders once, looked at me, and he called me son. You know, in prison, you don't put your hands on me. I'm flinching like this food. And when I looked at this older man in prison, and he called me son, and told me I have potential, and I said, stop hanging around the homeboys. Move me. Move my spirit. Especially when your daddy has never called you son. Or set you on his lap and gave you a ball in your life. And society expects us to grow up, raise ourselves, educate ourselves, go into the world and compete competitively. Everybody's not that strong. Train him up, beast. He's making our signature correctional assembly rooms. BOP recipe. I took every recipe BO prisoners had when I was locked up. Can't get sued. Can't trademark the recipe. So I brought that recipe home, changed the ingredients into China, and had 24 karat gold leaf paper on top. Called the Bling Cinnamon Rolls. Power transformation. The only difference between prison cuisine and gourmet cuisine is the China and the ingredients. We can't just follow our own. We have a generation. Got him trained up. The other little homeboy comes in. Now we got the little homie training the little homie. Amen. Empowered him. Called him son. He loved me so much. When my own sons and children come to my school, he gets jealous. And so sometimes I can't even hold my own sons in front of this little boy, and I purposely don't do it. And when I call him son, my son Nicholas, who's 15, came up to me and whispered to me, he said, Daddy, why you call him son? He's not your son. I said, son, listen, sometimes daddy got to be daddy to other little boys because they don't have a daddy. He said, oh, okay. Anytime got it. Next slide. Next one. I call federal prison Fed University. I grew up in prison. Best thing ever happened to me. I got rescued from the streets. I killed the dude I used to be. Jeff Hardhead back in the days. 23-year-old little kid. I evolved in prison. The first book I ever read in my life. A brother by the name of MJ, who was down for 35 years in the Black Liberation Army, gave me this book. My number is still on it, 1613819, called Black Men, Obsolete, Single, Dangerous. And when I picked up this book, after 2 months later, because I wasn't trying to read or hear none of that black history, religion, none of that, because at that time I probably was atheist. Because I couldn't believe how God would send me and so many of us to prison. But when I started to read this book right here, I read about black men who were intellectuals, who were bankers, who were scientists, who weren't pimps and hustlers and drug dealers. Then I said, why did my teacher give me this? Why isn't this in public schools? Right? And so as I started to read, I just changed, man. I just walked different, talked different. Man, I was proud to be black. I've never been proud to be black because my daddy ain't never told me nothing powerful about black men. He didn't know. He grew up in New Orleans in the 6th Ward. Escaped New Orleans to come to California for the American dream. I had to go to prison to get the science of life. And so when I read the book, I was hungry for more. I went back to Brother MJ and he gave me a book called Destruction of a Black Civilization. There's another book called They Came Before Columbus by Dr. Ivan Van Sertima. And then I ordered more books from Dr. Ben, the ISIS Papers. All these different books made me love me, which is the first pillar of transformation and shifting the mindset is self-love and value of yourself. Okay? So now I read the book. I went and got my red, black, and green medallion on. Man, I changed my name 3 times in prison. I went from Jeffrey Henderson to Jeffrey 2X to Kamal Shakur. I studied every religion. It was like I was in college. I was hungry and thirsty for knowledge and information. I gave my first speech in prison at Toastmasters. And I want to give a shout out to a brother out here, got a long beard, little bucks. My man right here was talking about Toastmasters earlier. See, I was in the federal system at a different time. I was blessed. I was in there what's called Club Fed. I was with Ivan Boesky, Michael Milton, multi-millionaires, global thinkers. Alan Hastings, black judge out of Florida, was indicted for getting the envelope under the top off the yard with these dudes. I never sat at a table with a white man until I went to prison. An Italian guy, Mr. Rosario Gambino, serving 45 years of life. This man taught me middle class values. How he sat in the chow hall with his legs crossed, prison napkin in his lap. The way they groom, the way they walk, and the Wall Street guys had their own TV room. And you know, to prison, you stick with your own. And I used to go over to the Wall Street TV, look in, they was watching 60 Minutes, 2025 time. And by watching those news magazines, I was able to travel the world. I met Nigerians, the first I was so proud to meet an African, Mother Africa. The first Jew I ever met was in prison. Became good friends with this guy, and he was a great debater. I remember going in the TV room, he had the prayer box wrapped around his head, and the blanket, I thought he had a bomb right here. I didn't know, I was ignorant. Wall Street dude, became real cool. He said, Jeff, come to Toastmasters. I want you to tell our group how you made $1 million when you was 19. Went up there 15 minutes, told all the strategies. I cornered the rock cocaine market in Southeast San Diego. How I marketed, how I branded the product. Me being a chef, an artist. Me being in love with beauty. Even to how I cooked my rock cocaine. It was passion. The death drug of Black America. From the glass corning pot to understanding the temperature, the BTUs under that glass pot, and the proper measurement of baking soda and the product. To knowing how to use the triple beam scale. Now they don't give you the whole formula. But I learned it because I had an opportunity to see someone else cook that. And then went to prison, the whole things, hang around the Wall Street guys, got in trouble, went to the hole, got out the hole. They put me in the kitchen on pot pan detail. Next slide. And so now I'm in the kitchen cooking. Go back one more slide. I'm in the prison kitchen cooking, and I got good at it. And I realized the guys who worked in the prison kitchen ate better than everybody else. I didn't know they worked with y'all. Everybody in the kitchen was slow. They had all the extra bananas and chicken and all. And the fans, we ate good. We had T-bone steaks once a week with the bone in the steak. Chicken on Thursdays and Sundays, quarter piece, bones in it, thigh in a leg, breast in the wing. Bocce ball courts, tennis courts, movie theater, law library. To 1992, 60 Minutes did a special, took everything else. Getting close on time here, all right? Got in the kitchen, got good. My mentor, Mr. Womack, the eldest brother, Bobby Womack, of the Valentino's, Friendly Womack, taught me how to cook. He got released, and they made me the head inmate cook, grade 1 pay. I was 98% decriminalized, and 2% of criminals still in me. So I launched an underground catering business. Because when I went to the hole, I lost my job on the Cadillac cruise, so I lost access. It was in prison when I learned the power of access. No matter how gifted, how smart you are, how good you are at something, if you don't have access to power and the people that can open doors for you, it means nothing. So I started selling everything I sold out the kitchen. to the Wall Street guys, hooking up their top ramen noodle dishes, squeezed cheese. We was able to get parts of farm packages every Christmas with the Gouda cheese and the cream cheese, make the cheesecakes. And I had to kick the brothers down too. I don't want to have no trouble, right? So they had to make sure everybody got their piece. We traded off with the bakery boys, and so that's how I made my little money and kept access with these guys because they were very elitist. They didn't want to wait in line in town hall and that stuff. Then what happened? Right before I was getting ready to go home, case manager came and gave me the USA Today about the top black chefs in America. At the time, it was Patrick Clark, Marcus Samuelson, and Robert Gatsby, and I started writing letters before I got out. But my smuggling operation eventually came to an end. When I first started, when I first went to prison, it's funny because I never, experienced adult jail or nothing, right? So when I first went to prison, I used to wear tidy whities. And I remember the lineup at the Federal Detention Center. Big dudes, they must have been repeat offenders, I don't know. I didn't know the terminology and nothing. And I was waiting, I was skinny, I was trying to stick my little chest out. And everybody was dropping their drawers down to get, the check. And I'm standing there scared to death to pull my pants down. And he said, Henderson, come on, let's go. Finally dropped it. Everybody with boxes on. I'm the only there with tidy whities. One big old boy said, "They can't wear tidy whities." I didn't know. And then I had to get the boxers. They were so big. I had boxers, boy. You didn't see no curves and nothing. I had the big, right? And then I tried to snuggle food out the kitchen. I couldn't put it in the box. So I went back and got the tidy whities, put the boxes off so I could stuff the soup. Right? So I was known for flavor with my food. Let me tell you, what I learned in prison really planted the seed for me to come home. Next line. And Mr. Womack went out before me, about 5 years before me. I told him I was coming back to LA, didn't want to go back to San Diego, wanted to start fresh. Then went back to LA, said, man, I'm getting out, coming to LA, new start. I'm gonna be a chef, man, I'm gonna be a chef. He says, yeah, but I'm not there no more, I'm in Arkansas. He said, yeah, but I'm gonna introduce you to one of my nieces. And so I sent a picture to one of his nieces, he had a lot of nieces. I sent the picture, I was buff, I had no gray hair, I had waves that'll make you seasick in my hair, right? I was still young, 31 years old, sending that picture, and she snatched the picture up, and she allowed me to start writing her, and I started sending her centerfolds of like Essence, Upscale, Emerge magazines, a black couple sitting at a white tablecloth dinner, and I sold her on my dream. So she believed in my potential, and she was there on day one. When I walked out and made my way to Beverly Hills, next slide, to meet the chef, Robert Gatsby, the black man far on the right, one of the top chefs in the world, worked for Thomas Keller, Joe Rogan, Sean Allen Lacoste. He worked in Thailand, traveled all over the world, taught me California French. So I had to go back to my thinking on the street. In the middle is Paul Bocuse. He's the most renowned, famous French chef at the Ritz-Carlton Marina Del Rey, who I eventually was able to get up under. And Robert Gatsby was opening up in Beverly Hills, and I made my way there to Beverly Hills, and it took me a month to wind up getting the job. I had to prove to him that I was hungry, but there were some things I had to change. I had to build a brand. And this is what's important with our guys in prison. Yes, we can give them a skill set, right? We can teach them everything that they need to know to get a job, but sustaining the job and building a brand, understanding middle-class values, understanding lived experience of people that don't look like them. And so my diverse relationships I had in prison made me comfortable to articulate who I am and what I do to white men in my industry. Years and years ago, I wouldn't be able to do that. I'd probably bow my head and not be confident in who I am. And so I learned this from him, and I clean shaved my head, bald like kids, got the trendy eyewear. He was getting his hands manicured. He had the $180 Egyptian chef coat. Feel that, bro? This is a black version. Feel that, bro? Isn't that nice? Feel this, man. Top notch. Right? In order to be a top chef, you gotta look like one, talk like one, cook like one. So I imitated the top chefs in the country. But I still struggled. I was kind of buff coming out. And you tell guys who've been to the pen, I don't want to stereotype, big up top, small down here, so I still had that walk a little bit too. And lean hug a little bit, you know? And so I had to straighten up the way I walk. I had to, tight pants was very hard for me. You know, Robert Gatsby, Paul Bocuse wore tight pants. And so I had to start wearing tight pants, and it just wasn't comfortable, but I had to do it. I had to stop lifting weights. I always tell brothers when I go to pen, leave the weights alone. Build this up, forget the weights, man. People know that penitentiary built. And so getting my hands manicured, and I never got tattoos, so I never wanted to be identified by anybody, and got the conservative watch. Everything just was just clean cut. And I became very articulate because I read a lot of cookbooks in prison, and I listened ear hustle to all the conversation Mr. Gatsby had from with Madonna, Kellogg cereal. They smoked cigars, and I don't smoke cigars, but they invited me out with Mr. Kellogg cereal. The smoking cigar, I started just coughing and coughing, man. Nothing wrong, and had to clean shave my face, had to invest in my grill. Yeah. Grill is important. We're making all these teeth up in the prison. Make sure we get some of them. Had to get my grill tight. Had to straighten up the way I walk. And us guys, as we start getting older, I just hit 60, I'll be 61 in July. You know, as we get older, we apply for jobs. You know, chefs, most of these chefs are kind of big, right? So they never trust a skinny chef. And so I'm big. I start getting a little stomach, and us guys, when we get older, we start getting like man boobs and stuff, you know? And we start getting hair coming out our ears. And I don't know why we get in that crispy hair. And then we lay down and I'm like, oh, I haven't got my little dye brush. I ain't hit my eyebrows a little bit. My eyebrows is dark, ain't it? Let me take a shot and be gone, right? And then all the way down to presentation, how people perceive you. Chef look pretty good for 60, don't he? Yeah. Got my band strength on. All these old heads in here laughing, they know they got one on. Stand up and open your shirt. I found this in the airport, I think Atlanta somewhere, that lady had made some women's Spanx, and my wife told me, go get the man's Spanx, and I'm coming. And I put the Spanx on, and so just so I can just look good and not look like I've been to prison. So they always say, Chef, man, you gotta keep it at 100, you gotta be authentic, man. I said, how am I be authentic being a black man, been in prison, got a criminal record, never been to culinary school? I had to chameleonize my approach to creating opportunities for them. And so we teach that through my style of re-entry and building a brand and middle-class values. That's me in prison in my chef whites. Like, I didn't chase anything. I never went after book deal. I never went after television. I had 5 TV shows, all prime time, Food Network, Tribune Media, Flip My Food, Family Style with Chef Jeff, Beat the Chefs on the game show. I never had a publicist, manager, none of that. So when you walk in purpose, and you're highly fed, right? And that's what I believe. I mean, the phone just always rang. And I survived the streets, prison, and came out and was able to achieve what I was able to achieve. It was a miracle. And that's what it takes for you guys still in prison. Everybody needs to have a miracle. Everybody needs to have that aha moment, those little aha moments that lead up to that big moment where you finally figure out, aha, next line. I finally got it, I made it. Right? And I'm still a hustler. I just changed the product. Right? Ain't nothing wrong with hustling. Everybody in here is hustling. I've been watching y'all passing cars, working deals. Webster Dictionary just put a bad terminology on it. And so when I work with these youngsters who are street hustlers, we have to move into that hustlepreneur mentality. Right? Take those gifts and strips. See, something that, okay, coming for me. I ain't stolen over 40 years. I'm still a little more time here, right? Okay, so when we look at these youngsters, right, we all hustlers. We come from the street. And so there's nothing wrong with hustling. What defines the hustler is the product. The people you deal with, and character. And so I was able to take prison cuisine and flip it into California French. I'm cooking grilled brioche with pan-seared Hudson Valley foie gras with a blackberry 12-year-old aged balsamic gastrique, watermelon cubes. When I went to the hotels, they used to make fun of me. They always thought I was going to do something that's southern, fried chicken. They said, "Chef, you on fried chicken?" I said, "What is? I don't never had fried chicken before." We're going to have quail, grilled quail, smoked quail with mesquite wood or something like that. And so I went into the industry and I jacked them for the game. I jacked them for their culinary degree. So if you do something around me that's in my lane, I'm going to pick up on that. And I took it and I ran with it. Next slide. Mindset. Finally made to Las Vegas in 2001. Been there 27 years and became the first African-American executive chef, running $30 million businesses at Caesar's Palace and the Bellagio Hotel. Still a felon, about 30 years. Presidential pardons. I slipped up and didn't get one last time, but the Lord gonna bless me one day. Get that record off so I can get strapped like everybody else, right? All right, next slide, please. Innovative workforce development, we're gonna go quick. Innovative workforce development, nothing can be ordinary for helping people like us coming out of the system. Everything has to be above average. Next slide. Wrapping up right here, 2 minutes. Academy behind bars, right? So how I was able to sustain what I do, I built my own table. That's my white tablecloth in the hood, the most dangerous neighborhood in Las Vegas, in North Las Vegas. And the people you see around the table are stakeholders in Las Vegas. Workforce development folks, business people, multimillionaires, developers, the whole nine. And I bring them to the school and they see us perform. We cook for these folks. And in order to really get funding, everyone who works for the Department of Corrections, you gotta get somebody in your organization to sit on the workforce development board. You gotta go through leadership training, Leadership Columbus, Leadership Cleveland, Leadership Las Vegas, where you meet the innovative business people. In order to build that direct talent pipeline, it's all about relationships. And you have to teach trades and skill sets in prison that are middle class, bigger than livable wages. Next slide. And that's all the folks we bring. I built a mobile workforce training school. So the little homies, it's hard to get them to come, so we bring the whole school to them. That's us at a maximum juvenile facility. Ward let me drive it up on the yard. I can put 6 kids in the hallway of my food truck. I have 3 of those at $275,000 a piece, state-of-the-art, high-speed internet, the whole 9 yards, and I bring on different employers. The guy that you see right there is a multi-millionaire real estate broker who comes in and teaches marketing, public relations. And over here, we took the little homies who went to LA to feed our legendary incarcerated firefighters in the LA fires. We drove that truck up there. Next slide. And so that's my story in a nutshell. And that's my 4th book I wrote called If You Can See, You Can Be It, based on 12 Street Smart Recipes for Success. And so I don't have any time for Q&A, do I? No. So I'll be around here for the next couple of days. We're going to take an all-star group of system-impacted folks here. I want to introduce Donna Hilton. She's your keynote speaker tomorrow. Donna, please stand. Powerful book called A Little Piece of Light. And great story along with everybody else is here. And I just want to thank everybody for listening, all the folks here, Warden for allowing me to come into your institution. One of his guys been locked up 52 years. They call him Birdman. His little parrot sitting here, he painted a nice picture of me. And so I appreciate you, and I thank you for being bold leadership, along with some of the other folks here. Man, I appreciate you for bringing me to Ohio for the first time. Rob, I thank you for giving platforms to people like us at the American Correctional Association. So I want to say God bless you guys. Thank you so much for having me.